be there when the 5-year process.
Yeah, oh, I agree with you 100% on that. Method to your madness.
Yeah, the first year is more of a
And
get what we
by the time you
can
get to
get out
year
of
4 or 5, you might even have 2 or 3 you won't have to do. You were planning on.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
For one reason or another.
But we'll squeeze as much of them we can. You can see that's one of the reasons why we moved the money into the miscellaneous, was to give us the flexibility to spend it for that purpose.
The question was whether that was enough to even cover what you thought you were probably doing here.
Then it will
Or
cover.
is that enough to cover what we have to get done in a year?
It will
according
cover
to
what
the
we
covenant?
have to get done.
That's what I.
Because you have to remember, one of the other things I had to take into consideration was your limits. Was
Right.
financially what you could
Right.
afford.
We've got a couple guys that are in the reserves that, well, one of them's active now and one of them's going active in June. They take a pretty thorough physical. Well, maybe some of those physicals can
Right.
count. Hopefully.
And will likely will, which
qualify,
means there's
yeah.
2 that we did not have to spend $1,000 a piece
Right.
looking, or it's not actually 1,000, it's looking more in the neighborhood of $700 to $900, but that's $700 to $900 saved.
Right, or if you say 500 to the 7 or something, I mean.
So if I
that's
tell you
part
the
of
first
it,
2
yeah.
years I'm gonna do 10 and I can get my hands on 8 physicals, we only have to pay for 2 in the first 2 years. So I mean, there is a method for us to do it and it not cost us an arm and a leg to do the first couple of years. At some point, year 3, year 4, there might come a time when we have to put more money towards
Yes,
it.
my point is, I would suggest we do as many as we can afford to do. I would not push them into the future, because if we get in a financial bind and they gotta be done and we can't afford to do them that year,
That was
I mean, if
my,
you can save money, and I would spend as much as you can afford to spend and get them done as fast as
that's
you
why
can.
I asked to put it in miscellaneous. So that gives us the flexibility to do as many as we possibly can, and the ones we can't do, and then we can add on any of them we can do through the other alternative physical program, and just basically pick up as many as possible.
Yeah,
And just go from there. One of my limiting factors, of course, is our limits as far as what we can finance. Because we have, I mean, whether we admit it or not, as you were talking earlier, folks, we have a finite amount of money here that we can work
Yeah.
with. And that kind of dictates to us what we can do with that money.
you know, and I honestly thought the valuations would go up enough that we could raise
Well, and
a little more, that we'd have a little more room to play.
Well, and
in the
I'll
budget,
warn
but
you,
we-
based on what I'm being told, is that, and maybe not this year, but next year in the assessments, we may not see a raise at all, if even a
Well, see,
a flat line.
That's why I don't understand why ours didn't change, because if it's based on the productivity index, we should have taken a big jump with the prices and the yields in the last year, you know, so that's why it's just not matching with my other
Well,
figures.
I don't know how yours is set. Yours is set up a little different than ours, I'm assuming, because it's agricultural, but most of it's agriculture land. But in
Right,
our case, it's always at least a year behind.
well, see,
Our numbers are always a year behind, so I don't know if your numbers are a year behind like ours are, but there is anything that would have been an increased assessed value in a property in 2008 wouldn't apply this year. I mean, if you built a $400,000 home last year, I'm not collecting assessed value on that this year. It'd be next year before I get the assessed value on that.
right, and ours is set up to be updated every 2 years as a major, and this I thought was due, and it drops, it's the last 5-year average and drops 2 every 2 years. And see, that's where we should have got a big increase, and I swore it was due end of the year, which would have, right, it don't catch our last year's prices yet, it would be the year before, but that's the one that would have been up already enough to make a jump. I'll have to do a little checking on that, a little more.
Yeah, if you find something consistent, please let me know, because of course this is those assessed values I've given is what I base my
Oh, yeah,
general fund
right,
on too,
true.
so.
I mean, that's what you have
It's worth
to
me
base
making
it
a
on.
phone call and finding out for myself if there's a problem.
Well, see, the reason I asked when you got them, because I talked to Tim, our clerk, township clerk, and he had requested, he usually gets them from the auditor, and they said they weren't they hadn't received them yet, that's why.
I
we were
received them right
confused.
before Christmas.
That's the typical time, just about Christmas or the last week of the year, so I don't know.
You send them you send them more money, they must get them to you quicker.
Yeah. I don't know. And I haven't followed I normally follow the county budget process pretty close, and I haven't followed it as close this year, so today I did happen to attend the meeting, but so I haven't been exposed to either so much that I'm as familiar with them as I usually am.
Yeah, when you find out what they show, if
I'll
there's
do
a
a little-
discrepancy, please let,
Yeah, if there's a
I'm
discrepancy
gonna contact
or
it
something.
myself, but I mean, I relied on the fact that the stuff
Well,
they
yeah,
sent me was
I did.
accurate.
Well, yeah, that would be, I assume you're right. I would have to assume you're right also. It's just a bit,
We were kinda in the same boat. We were a little shocked they didn't change one of the two.
so, okay. Anything, let's see, the other thing we got here is actually just the breakdown of the year-to-date expenditures, right?
Yeah, Craig had just simply asked for
Right.
an itemization, and of course, like I said, it's a little bit behind.
Right, it's just through.
The November numbers
October.
will be loaded up in the next week or so, but there's always a delay because it takes longer to fill in all of the specific information into the system.
I hate to. Are these the actual ones on this?
Yeah, but of course mine, on this overall one, will be more accurate because it will include November numbers, whereas this one does not include November numbers.
Now, just a minute. This one includes November numbers?
Yes.
Well, how come unlike the first item where it says expended year-to-date is $100 more than we had on this one? On the insurance thing. I was just running through this, getting my handle on how to read it, and I happened to just look at that first one and thought, okay, I don't understand this, or,
We, just in looking at it, and of course I would have to ask our treasurer this question, but if you look at it, one is, two of them are referred to as workman's comp and the other one is not. So I would have to ask you exactly what the difference between those two and the way we actually appropriate it onto the
but
funds.
that comes to a total of 705, right?
It says, well, down here at the bottom it says 11,000.
Right,
It says expended is 937.
right, but on yours sheet over here, on the actual expended, the year-to-date is 837, there's a $100 discrepancy.
Yeah, there's a $100 discrepancy. And I'd have to go back and look. I just got this today. I have not looked through it. But I guess my point was.
Well, I
that-
can see that there's discrepancy on every number, so it's somewhere in the. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know why the figures don't jive, but everyone is off on the actual part, so it must be that when the accounting figures were.
Yeah, you have to remember you're dealing with two different time frame periods here, so I would really have
Yeah,
to.
we must be, like you said, must not both be exactly to the end of October or wherever you pulled the figures.
Right.
I just assumed you pulled them from like this sheet when you were
No,
assessing here.
no. I do it for my roll-up. So by the time I see it, it is, you might remember the last meeting, I had our roll-up sheets with me, and that's the way I presented it to you. I didn't bring my roll-up sheets today because I was presenting to you this budget sheet, which actually was a sheet that has a lot of the same information. But you might not, each one of them's a little different.
Anybody have any further questions on the budget, any of the budget items?